This episode is brought to you by Fuli Gemstones. Hello, welcome to If Jewels Could Talk from Milan. I recorded this episode in the Pennisi boutique, and every so often you will be able to tell that we're in the middle of the bustling city and how busy the store is. And I hope the odd little background noise just adds to the atmosphere and gives you an idea of what it's like to be in the Milan boutique. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to If Jewels Could Talk. I'm Carol Woolton, the voice of Jewellery. I'm here in the Pennisi store, which has been here since 1971, a stone's throw from the famous La Scala. And it's been a unique meeting point in the city for fashionistas and jewellery aficionados alike. This is where they meet when they're in Milan. They've got an exceptional collection of antique jewels, objects, buckles, evening bags, snuff boxes from the 18th century to 1950. And I'm here with Emanuele Pennisi, who is fourth generation of the family.
Right. Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for hosting us today.
I'm very pleased. Thank you.
And the sun's shining in Milan and we're looking at jewels, so it's all good.
Yes, I agree.
And I was, you've just published a book
Right.
about the collection and about the history of your family collecting. So will you just give us a little background?
Yes. It actually was my grandfather who opened the shop. The Pennisi story starts with him because the story back was on his maternal side, on his mother's side. So Pennisi starts with him, and he changed what his family was doing previously, because they were goldsmith and diamond dealers. So he had this passion for antique, and he started this shop that was quite new in Milan.
So where did his passion for the antique come from?
From Sicily. He was from Sicily, and I think in the family businesses, so many of these beautiful 18th century jewels dismantled and remounted in a new modern way, and he was very passionate about architecture, about art, and so he turned his passion into a job. And
that's the best job to have,
right.
When you turn your passion into a
diamond
job.
dealers with this vocation for collecting, and then he started doing this.
I love the way in the book that you describe how he began collecting, and you quote Salvatore Settis, the Italian archaeologist and artist historian, who says the collection you collect is the vital interweaving of antiquarianism, collecting, and artistic practice.
Right.
And I think that's a very nice way to put it.
Yes. Right. I still remember his face when he saw something particular or something he wanted to buy and not to sell back. So I keep this. I still remember his face, his eyes. He was very. he gave this joy that was amazing, really.
And has all the family followed?
Yeah, yes, it's my mother and me, so my sister is not working with us, and my uncle and Gabriele, so it's the two sons, so it's me and my cousin now, the new generation.
Keep it in the family.
Right.
The best thing.
Right.
And would you say that antique jewellery at the time he began collecting was quite underappreciated?
Yes, I think it's true. He made a very, very peculiar choice about this, because people used to come to UK buying antique jewellery. It was the reign of antique jewellery, and
when Bond Street was just a massive, and you could
Right.
basically pick up museum quality things,
of course,
everywhere.
And so Milan was quite an exception. We had a lot of jewellery shop here in Monte Napoleone's district, all the big brands, Bulgari and Faraone, and also the family-run business like mine, but all contemporary. And except probably one, the then disappeared. So it was quite something when it did this. It was a bet, a sort of bet, something new.
Do you think he was more interested in the stories that he got from the jewellery, or from the an interest in the jewelry making techniques that they displayed?
I think both of them. In the making, for sure, because he was quite a technician, having worked in a workshop and he was very good in recognizing diamonds. So, but also the story. He understood the mystery. That is a very fascinating story. Also, the power of the mystery behind the jewelry, behind a piece of jewel.
And finding it out. I thought it was very charmingly put in the book when, if I just quote the book for a minute, it's
right.
He saw neither dust nor boredom in these pieces, but on the contrary, the living, pulsating marvel of extraordinary workmanship, rare gemstones, stories of men and talents, and of legendary women.
Yes.
And I thought that's a very nice way of describing it all.
Yes, and sometimes you do researches and you discover things that even the family who are selling these pieces or they don't know. So that's very challenging and very interesting. And then jewelry also, it's so related to social changing in the different eras. So I think it's very interesting. And people now is very attracted by this.
Do you think more than they have been for some years?
Yes. They understood the importance of past.
Do you think that's the Kate Moss effect? Because Kate Moss always comes here, doesn't she? Miuccia Prada. In fact, Miuccia Prada wrote the foreword of the book.
Yes.
She says, I'm fascinated by the way these objects preciously hold and somehow communicate not only the history and flavour of an era, but also the history of those that have worn them.
Yes, I'm very proud of this.
Yes.
And
in fact, every fashion editor
yeah.
makes it a mission during Milan Fashion Week to come to this store. And in fact, I was travelling on my flight this morning from Heathrow with Sofia Nefitu, from the editor of 10 magazine.
Yes.
And she said she comes in here and buys something every time.
Yes, she always says that.
So it's like the holy grail for fashion editors.
Yes, it's so nice. It's so nice when people, come and see you and you see that they really appreciate what you do, your researches, and they try to find something new. It's like a little bit chasse au trésor. It's like treasure hunting. Yeah? So it's very nice.
So you think it's being rediscovered in a way, the pleasure of having something different and understanding the antique?
In a way, now people is understanding it, but probably is also thanks to this person like Miuccia Prada, she was the first with Franca Sozzani discovering antique jewelry and wearing antique jewelry. So now people it's really into it now, but more than in the past, in a different way. I think that also our clientele is more international now rather than before. There was more people from Milan, from the bourgeoisie, or maybe collectors. Now it's really, I have customers from all over the world.
And has taste changed? Do you think in your grandfather's day they were looking for a particular period and now they are all trying to get pieces from another period?
Yes, there are different trends. And that changed. I've been working here since 2000, so I've seen many different trends. It depends on fashion, of course. Also, the messages we receive from fashion, and also now at the minute, for example, people is very interested in Georgian jewelry, 18th century jewelry, because it's very easy to mix it with the contemporary style.
Quite hard to find it, though.
Yes, it's quite hard, but maybe they are looking for something that is precious, but is not so recognizable as precious at the minute. The first sight. So very sophisticated. So this is very, I see people really appreciate it. Also antique signed jewelry. So antique or vintage now, the big brands like Cartier or Bulgari or Van Cleef or Buccellati, they look for the old pieces, the archive pieces that the maison themselves, they look for it. And
Of course they do. They want to buy it back.
Yeah. So
Yes.
when my grandfather opened the shop, it was more the retro period and the Art Deco period.
And now that's so expensive, isn't it?
Yes.
And probably very hard for you to find.
Yes, actually, it's hard to find, but we are lucky because being here since 1971, sometimes we rebuy the collection we sold because, I mean, there's a change in generation and in tastes, so it's part of our luckiness to do this, to have access to nice collections to buy.
Mm-hmm. And you know where they've gone.
Yes. You know, the people, we tend to have long-term relation with our customers.
And do you think the way he chose pieces to buy, what do you think he based that on? Was it a combination of the beauty, aesthetics, manufacturing, the provenance?
First of all, the materials. And I mean, as a diamond dealer, always the loop is our third eye. Mm-hmm. So first of all that, and then aesthetic, of course.
So they had to be good gemstones.
Good gemstones and I mean the aesthetic. So yes, aesthetic, but also that, I mean, already in the 70s there were a lot of reproductions like today. So the knowledge of knowing if a piece is a correct piece or it's an authentic piece, it's a very precise choice. I mean, and it's very difficult to do this nowadays.
So a lot of research behind it.
A lot of research, of course. On hallmarking also. I mean, the marks are different marks in different eras and different countries. It's a mix of that.
Right. And do you think you still adhere to that, to the same principles of buying?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's the same. Probably today you have more instruments, but it's in a sense more complicated. Because now we have diamond, I mean artificial diamonds. We have a lot of things, a lot of new, I mean, techniques of treating stones.
Right.
And it's more complicated to discover.
That's a very good point. But I suppose at least that sort of illuminates what era it's come from. Because if you find a lab grown, you'll think, yep, that's not quite 18th century.
In a way, I mean, I have to thank the lab-grown diamonds because antique jewelry is becoming more and more interesting because it's something unique.
But you need somebody with a machine. Do you ever put the antique jewelry through machine to make sure they're not lab-grown?
I don't have the machine here.
But you send it off.
Yes, I have. I mean, I have all the other instruments you see here around, the microscope, and so we do researches on when we buy something, before buying it, and then putting it for sale. It takes a long time.
But it's still relatively undervalued, some antique jewelry, isn't it? I think at auction and when you go and find old pieces and compare them to what you'd get in one of the main streets and one of the main brands.
Yes, auctions are, we probably receive a lot of catalog. You see auctions, but you have always to check the results because sometimes, I mean, the estimations are very low and then the prices get very high. I think that now, for example, like 15 years ago, nobody cared about Victorian jewelry. It was considered a little bit old.
A bit fuddy-duddy, that's what we say.
Yeah. Now, also Chinese people that are big buyers now, they understood that it's a fantastic era, the Victorian era, because it was very eclectic, different styles, a lot of archaeological, I mean, reminiscence or Renaissance reminiscence. So it has changed a lot in the last.
So you are led in a way by fashion and what people are wanting to wear, even though it's from the past. For instance, I'm thinking of men's brooches at the moment. So many men are wearing brooches. Gerardo Felloni, the artistic creative director of Roger Vivier, he buys a lot of men's brooches, doesn't he? He's very interested.
He was the first. Gerardo.
You think he's the first?
He was the first. Gerardo, like Mrs. Prada, he was the first, and he's one of the biggest collections.
So Hollywood's copying him.
Probably it was. I don't know this, but probably it was the first wearing a diamond bow tiara brooch during the day in the underground. I mean, he had this passion probably. So when he was working with
before Karl Lagerfeld,
Mr. Lagerfeld had a different way. I mean, he used to be smaller tie. Smaller than Gerardo. Gerardo is more
flamboyant.
Yes.
Did Mr. Lagerfeld come here?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Did he buy his Suzanne Belperron here?
Not Suzanne Belperron. He bought,
Van Cleef?
Yes, no, he bought Van Cleef one and very nice small Art Deco, I think, car brooches, with the 3 different colors. But it was many years ago.
And what does Gerardo like?
Gerardo likes the 19th century and the 18th century when it has nice stones. And he likes cameos a lot. It has to be, he wears them every day, so it has to be something he can wear on the shirt, like a tie, but on the top of the shirt.
On the collar?
Yes, on the collar. And then, of course, his collection is very big. He has a lot of jewels that maybe he doesn't wear so often, but mainly 19th century.
And so when your grandfather said, there are pieces that he bought that his eyes lit up and he probably didn't want to sell, was that the basis of you starting your heritage collection?
Yes.
Things he couldn't bear to part with?
Yes. It started like this because he had this capacity of recognizing this is very exceptional, but it's not only a matter of money or value, and it's something very rare, something that you won't find it anymore. Like, for example, the Last Supper brooch that is here somewhere on the table.
Oh, yes, I wanted to talk about that.
Yes.
For sure.
I mean, how can you find it again? It's something, so you know it. If you are in this business and you did it, you know that it's something unique. And it probably left this to us and passed this to us, to this passion, this happiness in holding a jewel, studying it, checking it. It's very nice.
It's a very nice
I'm
thing.
I'm very grateful. Very grateful.
How many pieces in the archive?
I never count them. Believe me, I'm not joking. I don't know. To be honest, can be 300, 350. I don't know.
And what qualifies it? Just something so rare that you won't find again?
Rare, yes. I think rareness, uniqueness, or the story behind. Maybe somehow we have some royals, jewelry, maybe the brooch of the last Queen of Italy, Maria José, or some presentation ring from the Empress and Franz Joseph. We have 2 jewels related to Napoleon. And then what we find is unique. For example, the Egyptian set with the boxes that have the same symbol on the jewel is the same on the box, so it's very unique. It depends. It's something special, and we decided to keep it. And every single piece has its own way of being special.
And do people try and persuade you to sell them?
Yes.
Gerardo's here. Sell me that.
And then after the book, some pieces are revealed. They called us. I want it. Please sell it.
But you're not going to.
No. Not for the moment. No.
You'll lend it. I know Naomi Campbell's wearing something tonight.
Yes.
At the Dolce & Gabbana party.
Yes.
What is she? Can we
We
know
don't
what she's
know.
wearing?
Well,
She's going to come and
yes,
choose.
Gabriele, who is my cousin and partner in the business here, is bringing her some jewels. And we have a very friendly relation with her.
I'm going to look very carefully tonight at what she's wearing.
I think a necklace. She likes necklaces and earrings.
Mm-hmm. I'm with her on the
yes.
earrings.
You tell me if you like it.
I
I can give you a preview of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we'll do that. I mean, if people have a look for the Pennisi book, you'll see that what I really liked about it, we talk about the heritage of the store, but they describe really the 18th, 19th and 20th century, the sort of key points that sum up how jewels illustrate those eras and those decades. What I really liked was that you chose one word to describe each century. 18th century was revolution, 19th century was elegance, 20th century was speed. And
Yes,
I thought it was very well chosen
Right.
to describe them. And I'm going to ask you now if you would share with us a couple of jewels that you thought really exemplified the feelings of those centuries.
Yes.
Well, shall we start with
yes.
revolution? So revolution because of the technological progress that was being made, new techniques.
Yes, especially at the end of the 18th century, they started to wear jewelry in a different way, not only in the gathering during the night, and then they did a lot of improvement in the cut of diamonds. at the end of the 18th century. And then, of course, because of the French Revolution, there is a cut, a very big cut in jewelry history. After that, everything changed. Techniques, the way people was wearing jewelry.
And who was wearing it.
Who was wearing, why was wearing it. So it's a very big change.
It sort of left the hands of the aristocracy, really, and the sort of bourgeois, particularly, as you say, with the French crown jewels, were able to see, and therefore jewelers could replicate royal jewels.
Right, and also I've always found very interesting this part of the story when Napoleon left, and I mean all the different monarchies were restored. I mean, nobility didn't have so much money, so they had to go at court with, I mean, appropriate jewels, and that's why the jewelry workshop all over the world, they invented this very light repoussé mount with a very, I mean, few amount of gold and a lot of big stones, but semi-precious. So this was because they didn't have any money left. Maybe they sold the jewelry after the French Revolution, but they had to appear, I mean, well at court. This was something that's changed completely. Also the way jewelry was made and worn.
And I suppose before, pre-revolution, Marie Antoinette was such a style icon, wasn't she? And her fashionable way of dressing, of the bows, tassels,
Right.
are very, very feminine. That really influenced jewelry design.
Yes, at the minute, and then after, for example, Empress Eugenie, the wife of Napoleon III, got a lot of inspiration on Marie Antoinette, fashion and jewelry, and all over the world, I have to say. And also then Cartier at the beginning of the century was inspired by the end of the 18th century jewelry. So very important, it's a key personality.
And do you think, are you quite swayed when you see particularly fine pieces of Italian jewellery that talk of Italian history?
Yes.
Are you particularly swayed to collect those pieces?
Yes, I'm very happy to do that because I have to say French are the best. Yes, they were the best, they are the best, and I mean, they produce a lot. It's mainly French, English and Italian jewellery. Then there is a very important core of Austrian and German jewellery and antique jewellery back. And then in the 20th century, American jewellery. But when I find something Italian, I'm very proud of it because in Italy, we didn't produce so many jewels in the 19th century. We started a bigger production at the beginning of the 20th century, and most of the jewels, also my grandfather told this, probably I already told you, most of the jewels were dismantled and mounted in new ways during the eras. And then Italy is very interesting because as we are a very young country, because we've been unified at the end of the 19th century, before we were a lot of different principates and small states, and there was the Vatican state. So we got many different influences from Spain, from France, from Austria. So our jewelry is very interesting because it has a lot of different styles, giving this influences of the different important reigns were influencing our small principates.
You've got a particularly fine example of a Sicilian pendant, haven't you, from the 18th century?
Yes, right. With the enamel one in the book,
Yes.
well, it's a sort of basket
Yes.
with a very fine yellow and blue enamel and natural pearls and a sort of small dragon. It's a very rare piece, that one, because the enamel is perfect, and so this means that it has never been worn probably. And these jewels from Sicily were influenced a lot by the invasion of Spain. I mean, they had Spanish kings in the centuries.
Yes.
So sometimes you find that Sicilian jewelry is very similar to the Spanish one of the 18th century and 17th century.
And all the flowers, the sort of Baroque flowers,
Right.
just showed that interest in botany at the time.
Yes, of course. I mean, natural have always been an inspiration for jewelers, especially in the 18th century. The spray brooches that were so, fashionable during the 19th century, they were first, designed in the 18th century, this big stomacher brooch.
And I love the chatelaine that you have, because that just really talks about how women lived and
Right.
what they needed practically at the
Yes,
time.
yes.
People think of jewels as something people don't need, but in the 18th century, that was sort of their handbag, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. The head of the house had the most important chatelaine. That was, very precious. But then all the ladies of the house had one, so it could be silver or other materials. And it was something useful. We have one with the comb, the little purse for coin, the bottle for the salts.
All kinds of tapestry needles, scissors,
Yes.
pomander, notebook, pencil. All of this hanging off in just sort of miniature jeweled form.
Yes, that's elegance.
So really, really beautiful.
Right.
And as you say, it just tells that story of how they were living and
Yeah.
and how a woman would be very proud to have that, because it would mean that she was now the chatelaine of her own home.
Right. In the 19th century, when two big families got married in France, I had also this kind of pieces. You find chatelaines with the coat of arms of the two families united to symbol, and this was given to the most important lady of the family.
And then, of course, as you mentioned, you have a couple of pieces that were made for Napoleon.
Yes.
Which is incredible. He loved jewellery, didn't he? He loved jewellery.
Yes, but the story exactly is that one is a bracelet that Napoleon gave to Las Casas, who wrote the Saint Helene Memorial. So it's a gift with a word for him. I really appreciate your friendship. And with the cameo depicting the emperor and the crown and all the symbols. So it was owned by Napoleon and given to this family. And the other one...
Given towards the end of his life.
Yes.
So when had he had it made? Had he had it made by Nito and Fils?
No, we don't know. There's no hallmark.
No.
There's no hallmark. We don't know. It probably was made in Italy. I don't know. There's no French marks on it. So it's a mystery. We got it from the family who had always had in succession, but they don't know anything about the production. So we know it's a gift because it's written, but we don't know about who made it.
Do they still have the note that went with
Yes,
it?
it's
That's
written on the
amazing.
back. It's written on the back of the bracelet.
Engraved?
Engraved.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, look, you've got it here.
Yes. It's written in French. Yes, it's quite complicated to open it.
It's imperial blue.
Yes, it's imperial blue.
Enamel.
And enamel. And
Lots
the
of
cameo. No, I can open it in a minute.
gold ends, and this lovely cameo, perfect cameo of Napoleon
Right.
emulating a Roman emperor with a laurel wreath around his head, which is how he liked to portray himself.
Yes. And on the back of the cameo, if I can open it, but I can read it, there's this word with the signature of Napoleon to Las Casas and thanking him for his friendship, and on the back the coat of arms of the family who received it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That really is a very...
And the eagle, did you notice the eagle in silver?
And the imperial eagle at the bottom, a crown at the top. And the bees, because that's the emblem that he adopted when he became emperor. And there is a bee that is traced back to French kings, isn't there?
Yes, to Merovingians, I think. They found it in a tomb, so he didn't have a coat of arms on his own. So he decided to take it.
And
it's very appropriate. And this leads us to the other bracelet, thank you. That is with imperial bees.
Oh, I think also the bees in Egypt was a symbol of obedience and loyalty.
Right.
So maybe that's what he's trying to transfer to anyone when he had a huge bee, didn't he? That
right.
Attached his cloak.
Yes, to the cloak. Right.
I've tried that on.
Yes. Where is it? Is it in the
It was
museum
at the
at
Chaumet.
The showman, right.
I mean, that is amazing to put. I mean, to have a jewel like this that you know he's touched and worn.
Yes,
it's just this direct line to something of history that it's very extraordinary.
Yes, it's very.
It gives you a tingle down your spine, let me tell you.
This is the other Napoleonic.
And this is very beautiful.
Yes, this is my favorite. I have to say, this is my favorite because I like the beads. I like the color of the enamel. Plum.
Again,
how did you say it in English? It's plum. It's not purple.
It's almost like porphyry, isn't it? That sort of purple, red.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
It's a fantastic.
Absolutely sensational.
It's sensational the way
and
this guilloche enamel and the bees. I find it very contemporary.
Do we know who that was made for?
No, we don't know. We only have this box that is.
It's definitely a female because it's a narrow band.
It's a female. No, these jewels in the past were meant for female. No, not for men. So we're sure.
I could see Napoleon wearing that one though.
Yeah. Why not?
Maybe it's his and hers. Josephine's and his. That's really beautiful.
Yes, these are French hallmarks, but there's not the maker.
Okay.
There's only the French, so he passed through France, but we don't know the maker.
Well,
there's a mystery.
He tried to elevate the jewelry industry in France, didn't he, and bring back luxury and that sense of.
He and Josephine, yes. I mean, they loved jewelry, and Josephine was very fond of cameos.
And that is quite an Italian art, the glyptic art.
Right. It's very old, it's very ancient. Also French, in a way, in the south of France, but in Italy we are, famous for that, close to Naples, Torre del Greco. There was a school that I think...
still is.
Yes, I think Prince Murat opened once the first school.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I think
his
I've read that as well.
For the first time.
Yes. So that sort of sense of Italian royalty.
Right.
Opening a cameo carving school.
Yes, right. I mean, cameos have always been very fashionable also during the Roman period. And more intaglios, and then we had big collectors in the 15th century and 16th century, in the Florentine collections, for example, the Medicis collection. A cameo have always been related to royalty and to art, to culture.
And academia.
Right.
Because of the classic stories that they tell, either the figures, the portraits, or the actual sort of mise en scene of a particular classical story.
Yes.
So they're quite an academic, and Josephine learnt about them, didn't she, when she collected them?
Right. And also it's very important for us because they tell us stories, like the Greek vases, for example. They tell us stories of a certain mythology, or sometimes are biblical scenes.
So these are all pieces from the age, as you describe, of elegance.
Right.
And there's one coral collar in your book which I just fell in love with. Really.
The one with the different...
The hands, warding off the evil eye, and beautiful...
chain.
Yes, and it could, with a hand, wearing rings.
Right.
And it's in the, what is it called? Mano cornuto?
Yes.
What's it called?
Yes, this is a pair of earrings. Actually, is a very particular
the sign of the horns.
Right.
It's the hand making the sign of the horns, which is a sign of good luck in Italy, isn't it?
Right.
And then the hands are decorated with jewels.
With decorator, and every hand is holding a scaramantic charm. So there's a small mouse, there's a small ladder. What I like of that pair of earrings, and there's also, as you mentioned, a necklace with a pendant, is that we reunited them. One was found in Italy and is an Italian production, and actually the earrings are a French production. So this tells you a lot about how Italian corals and Italian carvings and cameos were bought in Italy and then exported to France or to England, and they were mounted then by English and French jewelers. So it's really an Italian jewel, but made by a French maker.
in an Italian style.
In an Italian style.
With the Italian superstitious
With the
views
Italian,
behind it.
Right.
That's so interesting, isn't it?
That still remains today. That is one of the, I mean, they called us for that pair of earrings from Sicily, from Naples, from all over the world, because
Really?
they like this, yes.
They still practice.
Yes.
And that coral's good luck for a baby to have.
Yeah, always. Yes, they were it. Actually, coral was worn by nannies in the 19th century, but still in the 40s of the 20th century, because it was, I mean, they said it gave more milk. So a lot of...
So like the wet nurse who looked after the baby.
A lot of big earrings in the south of Italy. And they, I mean, the nannies were paid with these jewels, not with money.
Gosh, that's interesting.
Yes.
And then another Italian art, the micromosaic that you
Right.
have, don't you? And sort of souvenir jewels when people went on their grand tour around Europe, but particularly in Italy, and would take back a souvenir. And the micromosaic scenes were very popular, weren't they?
Yes, they were very...
Vistas of Italy and
Visitors of
temples
Italy, and in Rome there were a lot of these shops selling micromosaic. Also, the very important workshops like Castellani, for example. And these micromosaics, sometimes you can barely recognize if they are a painting or they are mosaics when they are very, very fine.
extraordinary. What is
Yes.
this one?
This one is fantastic
Beautiful
because
example.
these actually, it's a necklace with a pendant.
These are all sort of pastoral scenes, are they?
Yes.
And as you say, you can hardly notice it. Looks like a beautiful watercolour. You can't see the tiny little tesserae tiles.
I never count the small tassels, but I can't imagine how many are there. And these
Thousands and
set is
thousands,
believed to be owned by Josephine Boigny, the first wife of Napoleon.
And this gold work is very
Yes, the
beautiful.
gold
This-
also here is a canety, and it's typical of the early 19th century.
sort of the little beads.
Yes, little beads and wires, very intricate. It's a sort of lace in yellow gold.
And this is its original box.
Yes, this is the box.
But this, so if I open this, it's like I can imagine I'm Josephine getting ready to go out.
I think it's a
Look at the
gift. The
jewel.
micromosaic were owned by, the story is she owned micromosaic. She owned a big collection of micromosaic and she gave it as a gift to a lady in waiting or to someone related to her.
And then, of course, the great Italian tradition of the great artistic masters. And we've got to have a look at the Last Supper brooch.
Oh yes, this we found in...
And this is just...
We found it in Germany, in a collection in Germany.
And this is a watercolour?
No, these are actually enamel.
Enamel.
So as I said, the technique is the same, but it's enamel, and it's. I mean, if we find souvenirs of Rome in the micromosaic jewels, this is the only example I know. Maybe
I've
there are
never
others.
seen anything
This is
like
an
it.
Italian, a Milanese souvenir, because normally souvenirs are from Rome, sometimes very rarely from Venice, and so this is very Milanese. And it's a late 19th century brooch, and someone who was very devoted, probably. And
Do you think it was for a cleric, for a church?
I don't think so.
No.
This was meant for a lady.
It's big.
Yes, it's a brooch she used to wear.
A very
probably.
pious woman.
Yes, very pious woman and very fond.
Pious who liked precious.
Yes, yes.
So sapphires, beautiful drop pearls.
Yes, natural pearls.
Natural pearls, sapphires, diamonds, and this exquisite enameling really is extraordinary.
And the box is the
And
original
is it
one.
technically correct, the picture?
Yes,
the
I
enamel
think
of the picture?
yes, I think it's a good reproduction of the painting.
So I bet Gerardo begs to buy that, does he?
Yes, he could appreciate it, but probably it's a little bit small for him. yes.
That's funny. And then we go on to speed, 20th century, for obvious reasons, mobility, globalization, inventions, transport, communications. But beautiful jewelry.
It's the moment of jewelry. Everybody wanted jewelry, a lot of jewelry shop, jewelry workshop, new techniques, new materials. Platinum has revolutioned jewelry. all white.
Of course.
And then the combination of different materials, Italian materials as well. I mean, we were talking about corals, and I mean corals in the Art Deco period, 1925, during the Art Deco exhibition, a lot of corals and onyx and jades mixing together. So it's a fantastic moment for jewelry.
Because they hadn't been able to use platinum
Yes.
in jewelry until that time.
Yes, this gives a delicacy in the mount that previously was not reached, and of course the use of metal. You can use less metal when you use platinum.
So it's thinner.
Yes, it's thinner, more delicate. So starting with the Edwardian period, in which, I mean, everything was very lacy and related to the, as we talked before, the 18th century bows, very elegant. Then, I mean, this turned into the very geometric and solid and graphic jewelry of the 30s. So, I mean, 30 years, it has many changes.
And they have a fantastic piece by Jean de Pré
Yes.
here. So will you tell everyone about Jean de Pré?
Jean de Pré was one of them, but we had, in the 30s, we had this, I mean, as you say, the main artists and the main jewelers that were mainstream, for example, the biggest, Cartier, Mauboussin, La Cloche, and then we had the artist, and Jean de Pré was an artist, so he used completely different materials. You see how contemporary he is, and he used silver and gold. So he abandoned platinum and diamonds. They call them, I mean, there was a group of jewelers, him, Templier, they were the enfant prodige of the Art Deco. It's the two sides, I mean, the artist and the jewelers.
And they formed a sort of union of modern artistic jewelers, didn't they? And Jean de Pré was an aircraft engineer, wasn't he, in the First World War, and then he came out and, as you say, invented this unique style and all about speed, cogs, wheels.
Right.
And I had to wear my ring for them today.
Oh yes, this is fantastic.
That's the Jean de Pré to go with this. But that's fantastic, because that literally...
This is very rare because it's a set necklace and bracelet. Normally, you see more often in the market bracelets rather than necklaces. And bracelets were more common, let's say common, in the Art Deco period, because I mean the arms were naked, and so they used to wear a lot of them. Once the neck is won, so you find more bracelets rather than necklaces.
That's interesting. Yeah. And you have an extensive collection of somebody we don't know so well, Alfredo Ravasco.
Yes.
So he's an Italian.
He's an Italian jeweler, son of jeweler. I mean, his father was jeweler of the Italian court in Genoa. He moved to Milan. And
so what sort of year would that be?
1930. It was before the 25, and then during the 25, he'd been to France, and he won a prize at the Art Deco exposition. So actually, I mean, people in the jewelry business or in jewelry history know him, but then he disappeared. I mean, he never had any shop, only a small workshop, and he passed away in the 50s, and there was a big auction of his jewelry that then disappeared. And we've been collecting it since, I mean, we opened the shop.
So this, I'll pick up. This is an Alfredo Ravasco. One of his objects, you see it's an ashtray with this lovely little sort of blowfish, like a gold blowfish who's blowing little pearl bubbles out of his mouth. It's absolutely charming.
He did these things that were quite unusual.
And agate.
Yes, agate. And so he was very good with colors and enameling silver. He left this, if you notice, on the surface of the enamel, there are some spaces that are left without enamel. And this was meant because he wanted to look like more, not vintage, but alive. So
ruby eye?
ruby eye, right.
Little glinting ruby eye. It's absolutely enchanting.
And yes, he was very interesting because on one side he did these marvelous things that were very unusual for the moment, very unusual for the 30s. You can imagine the 30 with a lot of diamonds, with a lot of precious stones. And so this was not precious. And so we did this, and then on the other side, very serious platinum and diamonds brooches. He did a tiara for the Pope. So it was very eclectic. He did a lot of private altars for the families with these Virgin Ladies and Christs. And then he did fishes and turkeys. So it was very creative mind.
And you have a lovely dragonfly.
Right.
But unlike some of the dragonflies being made at the time, which were all enamel and very, very lifelike, this is sort of quite abstract, isn't it? It's
Yes.
almost like a cross.
Almost like a cross. And also I have an octopus that I think is the only octopus that has been made in jewellery before Schlumberger or the others in the 70s, because it was not a theme that was very common, so, and very Italian. So he used the coral, he used the Italian themes, octopus, the religious theme, and he mixed with the Art Deco Esprit. Very unique.
Very unique. What's your most modern piece, do you think, that you have in the collection?
Modern...
Up until 1950, is it?
Yes, 1950. It probably is one of the last Ravasco pieces he made in the 40s. But then, in the shop, we do like people, jewels from the 80s or the 90s sometimes. Yes, of course. We like Bulgari a lot at the minute, for example. I find it very interesting. Or Marina B, who recently passed away.
Yes.
And she made fantastic jewels. The shop was just in front of us when I remember.
So there'll be a big renewed interest in her work.
I hope so, because she was a great designer. Very good mix of design and mixing the materials like mother of pearls of different colors and semi-precious stones. Very nice design. A lot of inspiration from India, for example. I like her very much.
And is there a jeweler? Do you keep your eyes on modern jewelers? Do you look at their work and think, gosh, that will probably, in some years' time, have a piece of that in the collection? Is there anyone you admire?
There are many. I like Saba. I like
Emanuele Saba.
Yes, I do.
Strong looks.
There's this. I'm sorry, I probably pronounce not well the name. She's an English woman. I find her fantastic. Partridge something.
Solange. That's a good
Solange. I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. It's.
That's so interesting.
Yes,
that's
I
great.
like her.
She's very inventive.
She's very inventive.
Yes.
Right.
And she works unusual because she works really around words.
Right.
That inspires her collection, really, words, which is quite
Yes,
interesting.
there's not much more to be invented in jewellery. So that's why I appreciate them. Because it's difficult. That's why I appreciate them. They did a lot. They did everything. They experimented. So it's a hard job.
Materials and techniques and places to wear. So you think it's reinventing the wheel a bit?
Yes, in fact, the only modern production we did, I don't know if you know it, we did a production with a small capsule collection with Jenny Woolton. She's an American designer and influencer, and we decided to do hairpins because it's very unusual.
Yeah, and how did that go?
Very well. Very well, very well, very well.
Well, they were all precious?
Yes, made in bakelite, not of course, you cannot use tortoiseshell on any materials.
And also that's light.
Yes, and diamonds with flowers, and it's a little bit the story of Jenny Woolton, visiting Milan, living in Milan. She moved from New York to Milan, so how she sees Milan. And it was something very interesting doing this for the first time, but we decided to do with a peculiar object. We could never do a charm or a bracelet. We found out the hairpin was the right.
Something more unusual.
Yes.
And will you do more of those in the future?
Hopefully, stay tuned.
Okay, he's working on something he's not telling us.
Yes, yes.
And is there a jewel out there that you hanker after, that you would like to add to the collection?
There's always one.
And is there one in your mind at the moment?
Not in my mind, but this is the point. The point is that it's always a surprise. You know, this way of collecting and this job gives you surprises. It always surprises you. It's always interesting. You think you've seen everything and it's not like this.
So are you constantly traveling to find pieces, or do people come to you really?
Both. I have to say that most of the surprises were here in the shop. I mean, when they see maybe big collection of people dividing it, or maybe appraising a collection, this, I mean, breathtaking pieces that you maybe you will never buy because they will never sell, but big surprises, and are Italian surprises, because Italian jewelers were less classic but more inventive in a way.
So this is the place to get inventive, beautiful Italian jewels.
Would you like me to show you?
What is that?
Oh, this is fantastic. This is an Egyptian revival set made of 3 pieces. Actually, it's the cover of our book, so maybe we should mention it.
Yes. Egyptian revival.
Yes. And
so what is that? That is what, 20s or later?
Yes, 25. It's
25.
It's a bracelet. It's an enormous cuff bracelet. It's semi-rigid. And you can see that this Egyptian god and goddesses that you have gold on platinum are the same that are on the box.
That's amazing.
And the set comprise the bracelet, and a friend of mine wanted to wear it as a tiara. It can be an idea, and you have this wonderful ring. And the brooch that is actually on the cover of the book. And behind the bracelet and the ring, there's the story of it, because this is a gift for the marriage of a daughter from a father who gave it as a wedding gift.
It's quite an unusual wedding gift.
Yeah, it's very unusual, very unusual. Of course, they had Egyptian ancestors, so the family is half Egyptian, half Portuguese.
And that is heavy.
Yes. And this is the last Egyptian revival we had in jewelry history. The first one, of course, was after the Napoleon
Suez
campaign.
Canal.
Yeah, the Napoleon campaign.
Yeah.
And then we had a second round for when Napoleon III, and then the Art Deco after the discovery of the Tutankhamun tomb. And Americans were crazy about these things. A lot of important jewelers like Cartier, Van Cleef, La Cloche produced this kind of Egyptian revival jewels in America. Most of them are in American collections.
Thank you very much for sharing them with us, and I hope I'm going to come now and take some lovely imagery, and we can put that on the website so people can feel like they've been here with me.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. For this and other episodes of If Jewels Could Talk, please go to our website, carolwoolton.com/podcasts. And we also have a YouTube channel, and I'll be putting up images of what we talk about. So keep having a look at that. We love to have a rating and a comment. And if you've enjoyed it, please share it any way you can. And I'll keep you posted, because we do have a book coming out called If Jewels Could Talk in September. Join me again in 2 weeks for the next Jeweled Nugget, when we'll be off to Paris. I'll be talking to a man who honed his design skills at the inner sanctum of Saint Laurent with the great man himself, Yves Saint Laurent, and with Albert Elbaz at Lanvin. And his is the door that every cool girl in Paris knocks at. So we'll be in there, in the inner sanctum with him in 2 weeks. So join me then. And in the meantime, if you're on holiday, have a wonderful time. And don't forget that we are in season 7. We have a large back catalogue, so you can take us with you and listen to us wherever you are. Have a wonderful time. Bye-bye. If Jewels Could Talk with Carol Woolton is produced by Natasha Cowan, music and editing by Tim Thornton, graphics by Scott Bentley, illustration by Jordi Labanda. You can find our sponsors at fullygemstones.com and me at carolwoolton.com.